I am super pumped, man. So I just put out my video talking about the ACDC summer tour. And, it all became, I know my friend Matt Laug from the past. Matt Laug was a drummer I went to school with at Musicians Institute in California. And I played with him at the graduation ceremonies. And he played on our recording of the song that I'd written for that. And then later, Matt Laug, he's now the drummer for ACDC. And I can remember him coming out to see my band play. We played a venue in Redondo Beach. And he came to the show, man. And it was super cool to see him there. And I remember my drummer at the time kind of got, do you know him? I'm like, yeah, I went to school with him. Yeah, he's a really good drummer. Yeah, what's he doing here? He was kind of like going, am I getting replaced? It's like, no, man, it's just, he just happened to come see my band. But man, there he is now. And he's gotta be around my age. I'm guessing Matt Laug is 56 or 55, or could be older, could be 59. But man, getting called up to the major leagues, that is getting a gig in ACDC. Man, it's just absolutely incredible. And I'm on a walk and talk, and I'm fired up about this. I knew that he had played gigs with ACDC, and I wasn't sure if those were just, one-offs and just a couple huge dates, in Europe. Now that they're coming to North America, and now that the tour has been announced, and his name is in the tour press and everything, man, it's like very real that, man, he's hit what we like to call the lottery, as far as the gig lottery, right? And you think, man, his career, he's done a lot of cool stuff. He played with Slash's Snake Pit back in the day, and I know he's been playing with an Italian artist, doing a lot of big gigs, a huge artist over there. And he was, also playing with the Dirty Knobs. And he's done a lot of session work, and he's been playing in LA, for many years. He's done a lot of cool stuff. But man, this is like the biggest gig on the planet. At least this year it will be. And man, super pumped for him, man. But a lot of you guys might be asking, how do you get a gig like that? I get all kinds of people, man. It's people reaching out of the woodwork, and man, I've got a hit song. What do I need to do? All I need is I got this one song, or how do I get a big gig like this, or how do I do this? Like, man, there is no clear blueprint to success. There's no clear path. The only thing you can do is always be consistent, always do a good job, always be amiable, always be present, and be somewhere where these things can happen. Now, I left Los Angeles in 1994, so I haven't been in the real rock scene in a long time. But, I imagine if I'd have stayed out there and joined some different bands and networked and played around, maybe, just maybe, I would have been in a position to join one of the bands that I grew up with. Maybe I would have gotten a call to play with Rat, or maybe I would have, gotten some position, with one of those bands. But, I've always played a lot of different styles of music. And so for me at the time, getting to move to Nashville and immediately start playing, if I'd have stayed in Los Angeles, that whole 90s period, man, it could have been a serious drought. But a good drummer and a good rhythm section is always needed. And Matt's a versatile guy and was able to navigate the music business, but he's still been around. He's still out there, and he's still present, and he's in a place where he can be seen and heard and recommended potentially by a producer or another artist. When ACDC thought, man, we're gonna tour, and we don't think Phil Rudd, will be able to do a tour. Maybe there's legal reasons, maybe there's visa reasons, maybe health reasons, any number of things that they decide they're gonna put a new engine in the car. They didn't go back to Chris Slade. Chris Slade is getting on up there in age, and maybe they thought, who can we get? They don't need a double bass drummer. They don't need some technical monster. What they need is a good, solid drummer who's reliable, who keeps a good beat, who has a good groove, doesn't have to have a huge kit, just knows how to play the right stuff, will learn the parts and play them. Matt Laug is not a guy that's posting clips of how fast he can play and how many notes he can squeeze into a measure or any of that. He's a guy that plays for the song. So that's exactly what ACDC needs. Could they have gotten some flash drummer and all that? Yeah, but it wouldn't have sounded like ACDC. What they needed is somebody that can just lay it down and play the parts. And that's exactly what they got in Matt Laug. And him being there. Look, this is like getting called up to the majors. This is like, you've been playing AAA ball for a long time, and all of a sudden the team's headed into, ACDC is headed into extra innings. And that's exactly what this tour is. It's extra innings. ACDC doesn't need to do this, but you know what? Angus he's the youngest guy, in the original band, and he's like, man, let's do some more dates. I can still play. I still got it. And Brian Johnson worked out his hearing issues. And now, they're like, let's go back out there. But we'll just add, Cliff Williams retired. Man, thumping the bass, in a band like that and driving those eighth notes. Driving those eighth notes is challenging, man. He probably said, man, I got enough money. I don't need to go physically do this. It gets very physically challenging. But Angus wants to go out there. Brian figured a way around his issues. And now ACDC, needed a drummer. They needed a bass player. Who do they get? Two very solid guys. Two guys with lots of experience. Two guys that can breathe a little new life into the band without making it not sound like ACDC. I mean, ultimately, it's got to sound and feel like ACDC. And I know Matt Laug because I played with him. I know what kind of player he is. He's solid. And that's exactly what you need as the drummer for ACDC. Why does he get the call? Because he's out there. He's there somewhere where people will know him, can vouch for him. He's a guy that's known to be solid, can lay down a groove, and can handle the tour, knows he's a veteran of touring. He's toured internationally. He's toured, the North America. He's toured all over the world, and he's got the experience. He also, look, I know Matt's probably done some gigs that don't line up with what ACDC is, and I'm sure he's probably, played with, like a Mandy Moore or somebody like that. A gig is a gig, man. A gig is a gig. But, when you get the call and you get picked to be in ACDC, they're gonna highlight, they're gonna pick and choose off your resume. Former Slash's Snake Pit drummer, Matt Laug. That's having something like that. If you played with Slash, that's sort of your rock and roll pedigree. So, you're going to need, they're not going to just grab somebody who's unknown, unless he's just blowing up, he's blowing up social media with his covers of ACDC songs and his, impeccable feel and impeccable this. You're going to go for a known entity. They're going to go for somebody who can be vouched for. They're going to go for somebody who's got experience. And Matt Laug is exactly that guy. In fact, of all the guys I know, all the guys that play drums, he is probably the perfect choice that they could have made. And I don't know if they'd have called me and said, who do we get and what do we do and all that. I don't know if I would have remembered Matt off the top of my head, but now hearing about it, it makes absolute perfect sense. He's the perfect guy for the gig, and he's gonna do a great job, man. He's gonna go in there like a machine, and he's gonna lay it down. He's gonna be solid and consistent each night. He'll know when to cut loose a little bit. He'll know, that, hey, if the guys want to go out for a beer, he'll be able to go out and have a beer with them and not, destroy himself and be able to do the job the next day. And that is what they need. They need somebody experienced. They need somebody who can lay it down, somebody who's solid and is a good guy with experience. And the Mike Campbell on his resume, playing with the Dirty Knobs. ACDC and Tom Petty or Mike Campbell, it's a different thing, but it's also very similar in its drums that play for the song. And I know when talking to Lance Morrison and talking to him, I think in the segment before we taped our interview, that he said about Matt that basically he was playing with the Dirty Knobs, but then when he got the opportunity to do the ACDC gig, they let him go. Basically saying like, dude, Mike Campbell's take was, you just got asked to join the Beatles because to you, ACDC is like the Beatles are to me. And I would never tell you to turn down an opportunity like that. Just like if I had the chance to join the Beatles, you would never discourage me. So that is a little inside information that Lance Morrison, good friend of Matt Laug, plays with him all the time, played with him on the road with the Dirty Knobs. That's inside information. This is like hitting the lottery. This is like getting called up to the major leagues. Man, you could tell this has got me fired up on this walk and talk because I love to see somebody get a shot like this, dude. Now, I don't know if he's gonna come away after this little short tour a millionaire, but I can imagine that he's gonna be paid well. It's going to be a great experience. He's going to have his own tech, his own drum tech to set up his drums every night. They're going to travel in style. These are stadium shows. I looked at the tour schedule. There's plenty of days off of rest between shows. So it's not going to have that night after night drudge and getting burnt out and worn out. He's going to have plenty of time to recuperate between shows. And man, he's going to get back there behind that kit and he's going to lay it down solid and he's going to do a great job. And that's exactly why a guy gets the call. If you want to know how you get a job like that, man, you've got to be present. You've got to be somewhere where people, will hear you and know you and have a great reputation. And you got to be consistent night after night. It sometimes doesn't happen overnight. And for Matt, he's had a long career and done some great things, but he was never in a stadium headliner. And man, there's only so many stadium headliners in the rock world that still exist. And ACDC is one of those bands. And man, you know, he put in the work, he did the time, he's still out there, he still delivers the goods. And man, what an incredible opportunity that he got. But you want to know how you get there? You play the long game, you be consistent, you work hard, you show up on time, you be a nice guy, and boom, things can happen. So I'm super, super pumped for Matt Laug, and man, it's got me out here walking on this brisk, chilly Florida day, but man, I'm super pumped for him, and salute to Matt Laug. Rock on, brother.